Just a second. Pulling up a couple more links real quick for some people and then I will dive in. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. Sorry, trying to also control my excitement at the moment given Palantir. So y'all have heard me on these live streams a lot. We're just gonna jump straight over to Palantir. If I could type, we'd be good. Y'all have heard me talk about Palantir many times over the months on here and how I maintained a very bullish stance on Palantir. Look at this. It's freaking awesome. I'm in shares down here at 1711 and I did leave some runner calls. I did the smart thing here, which I'm a little sad, but also kind of happy that I got the discipline, I guess, at this point to have done what I did. But I trimmed my call positions that I was in, the $90 calls and the $86 calls, to cover my cost basis ahead of earnings, and left 3 runners of each. So as of right now, the intrinsic value alone on those is insane. So those are going to be up huge tomorrow. Because this move, as long as Palantir maintains the move, right? So with any earnings, we want to make sure that we actually maintain that move into open tomorrow. The implied move was less than 22%. That's a massive move. But like Tony and I think we're talking about either this weekend or on Friday, Palantir's done huge moves like this with previous earnings. And a lot of the stuff that they've been doing is great. And they're going to continue to expand, and really from a SaaS standpoint, they're killing it. And I work in the SaaS industry, so it stands out well. But you can't get hung up on the P&E ratio and all that crap, like from a standard, typical fundamental analysis standpoint, because that doesn't apply the same way with SaaS-based businesses. So Rule of 40 was, I haven't even looked to see what their outcome was for this earnings report. I'm sure it's still stellar, so I'll have to go back and look and see what that is and put together the post-earnings summary that I've been posting for some of the tickers. But as of right now, you can see Palantir's beautifully playing out this measured move, which was a bull flag breakout on the daily and weekly. If I look at the daily here, and you're not seeing the after hours candle movement, right? But on the daily, it maintained a very bullish setup there. Had a daily bullish engulfing candle, inverse head and shoulders here, all kinds of bullish setup going on Palantir there. So barring any kind of really bad outlook on earnings, Palantir was primed for a nice bullish breakout there into earnings. So always a big fan of trading carefully with earnings, because it is essentially gambling by trading through them. But Palantir was feeling good, so I left runners. What we're looking for is basically to see the measured move on this to the upside. Should be somewhere in that 108 to 110 range, but there's no telling what happens here. Keep in mind, a lot of people back whenever Palantir broke out on the previous earnings, if we go back and look, like back here, people said, oh, okay, it's going to pull back, right? And then it's going to go back into 30s. I'll buy again at $20. Well, no, not happening with Palantir, at least not anytime soon, because the momentum is pushing. This thing's ripping, looking good. So I'm going to harp on Palantir. Let me jump back over to some of the big tech tickers. I know we looked over what could happen to some of the charts on Friday, and then news came over the weekend that just dove everything hard. We got a slight reprieve on some things earlier today after diving, due to Mexico and Canada basically conceding a little bit on tariffs, but also a slight delay, it sounds like, with the tariffs coming on Canada. That being said, we're still in the same place overall that we were last week when we were trading cautiously, right? So don't mistake the little retracement bounce we got so far as full-blown bullish momentum. So if I start here with Apple, ideally I'd love to see Apple hold this large demand zone that it's got going on here. We'll see whether it can maintain that or not, but I'm going to go ahead and jump over to some of the others just for the sake of time, like NVDA, Tesla, some more that we need to check. Ideally, I would have liked to have seen some of these tickers fill their gap from the overnight or weekend session, because a lot of them didn't. So for instance, NVIDIA here, go ahead and mark it. I didn't mark it earlier today. Got a gap right there. It looks like in after hours we're trying to push up a little bit, but what you need to be cautious for tomorrow and the remainder of the week is if we fill this gap and reject. Because as of right now, looking at NVIDIA, looking at Tesla, looking at several others, we're attempting to hold these support levels that we caught these bounces at, but also we've now formed a lower low on the current trend in the current breakdown, right? So lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. That is your trend. The trend lines are there for reference, but ultimately, as of right now, and I'll go ahead and delete this one just to keep it less busy. As of right now, NVIDIA is testing this longer term uptrend it's been in. And not only is it testing, it potentially is going to reject. Because it already rejected on the 1 hour during the session today. And just like last week when people got really hyped because NVIDIA did this in after hours on Tuesday with the retracement, what happened following that? We traded flat and then tanked harder. So tread cautiously. Don't YOLO your whole account into swing calls or expensive call options just yet. Wait and confirm that we're actually going to see a bounce or reversal on a lot of these tickers here, because it's become pretty obvious that the tariffs are going to have a significant impact to the stock market, especially semiconductors. And while we're seeing some nice positive movement in after hours, we're still in retracement territory. So I'm treading carefully here. I'm not swinging calls on something like NVIDIA right now. I'll continue to sell covered calls on big pop green days just to hedge my long-term shareholdings, but definitely not going to advocate people trading, swing calls on something like this yet. Wait until you get confirmation of a reversal. AMD is an excellent example of why you do that, because people keep on buying calls on AMD and we keep on forming new lows, right? So I'm actually personally very hopeful that AMD can actually finally reverse the trend it's been in tomorrow with earnings. We'll see. I don't know whether earnings are going to be good or bad on AMD. I'm not going to trade it one way or the other ahead of earnings, but I will see how it shakes out, and maybe we can push up and get a new weekly candle that pushes out of the trend and confirms. But just like what we saw over here, I'm not going to assume that because we peak above on a daily candle above the trend line that AMD's reversing. I'm waiting for a full-blown bullish confirmation of a reversal here with a higher high from the current trend, because right now we still keep on forming lower lows. We have earnings tomorrow for Google, AMD, and what's the other one I'm missing here? Amazon. Amazon's not tomorrow, it's Thursday. So several of these tickers are very much over here and looking like they want to maintain their bullish setups and all. I would trade cautiously. I mean, Microsoft is another good example of why you want to look at both setups in both directions here. Microsoft's actually kind of looking a little scary at this point, because not only did it break down further today with the broader market movement and the tariff concerns, but also it's getting really close to this uptrend line and the neckline for that longer time frame head and shoulders. Personally, I was really hoping to see Microsoft come out of earnings with a solid, for one, good results like this, right? But also positive outlook and guidance. And hopefully it was going to push it to the upside, and that didn't happen. So as of right now, what I'm looking for on Microsoft, and I'll post kind of the detailed breakdown analysis I've been doing for the technicals, because it seems like people like that. And yeah, I'm using AI, but I'm using AI with a model that I've been training for months now that is taking multiple of my charts into account and then fueling all that into a detailed response so that people can use it in a data-driven manner. So Microsoft watching this, not personally swing calls or puts on Microsoft in this range. The risk to reward doesn't make sense. Meta looking fantastic, right? After earnings last week, it completed that measured move to the upside like we looked at on Friday. It also attempted a rejection today, but then pushed higher in after hours. So looking to see what we see happen on some of these. NVIDIA we just looked at. Tesla. What is Tesla doing? Let's look at Tesla real quick. So Tesla, like we looked at on Friday, it broke to the downside with the gap down that hit everything overnight and over the weekend. Tesla opened much lower. It's actually lost its 396 support on the daily, but just like whenever we saw the stuff on the upside movement on the other charts, I'm going to tell you to look for confirmation here. I'm not saying by any means to trade puts or calls swinging on Tesla, because risk to reward is just not worth it. I'll continue to sell covered calls on my Tesla shares because that makes sense. But as of right now, kind of watching this to see what happens. I I might, if I see a momentum break to the downside of a support, I might scalp puts on it intraday. But also treading carefully here, just because right now, if we do lose the current range of support at 379, this thing can head towards that gap fill at 345 very quickly. It's trying to hold this very key significant support at 379 though, so that's the key level to keep an eye on. Jumping over to QQQ. QQQ is playing with fire as well, right? So we got this nice big aftermarket move, it looks like, with the news of the Canada tariffs. But tread carefully, because you just saw literally on Friday a close that dropped that low, right? So you want to be cautious. Personally, I'm not swinging calls or puts on most things in these ranges just because it's not worth it. I may trade like a very, very cheap lotto contract or something on QQQ or SPY or one of these others intraday, but definitely not going like multiple weeks out expensive contracts on these current setups. This while these could seem like they're a situation where you're like buying the dip and getting a good buy, there's also a lot of risk in this current zone. SPY kept on fighting back and forth today at 600, but then never actually filled the gap during the trading hours. But look, it actually fills it in after hours. I want to see, does it open tomorrow above that and fill that? So if it does what it's done in the past, which is kind of concerning, is let's say we open above this, we open at maybe 601, 602, because there's a key resistance level up at 602.48. You'll want to watch for a rejection and drop, which would technically fill the gap that was left on the chart over here. I'm sorry, right here. But you want to watch out for a rejection at that gap fill during active trading hours. Pre-market after hours aren't that big of a deal because the gap is on the daily. So that's what you want to keep an eye on tomorrow. See what happens there. Again, SPY and QQQ are being driven by the top weightings. So NVDA and Microsoft and sorry, going blank. It's been a long day. Apple, all that good stuff. That's driving the movement on QQQ and SPY right now. So definitely keep an eye on that, especially with NVIDIA. I know it's above our key level of 117.22 in after hours, but the same thing as I mentioned on the gap fill levels here. Watch out for NVIDIA to fill that gap to the upside and reject. That would be, if I see a confirmation for rejection on a 5-minute and 15-minute candle, that's normally where I would scalp puts intraday to the next support level. And that seems to work out really, really well. I have a very high success rate with doing that. I'm going to probably hold off on calls unless I see a break above a significant level with strong momentum and buying volume. Not something like what we saw Friday where into the actual resistance level, volume was tapering down because that's buyer exhaustion that you saw there. Then news came in and we all saw what happened there, right? So be cautious, be careful when you're trading those. SPX, man, SPX was all over the place today. We were trading it both directions, but it's volatile, fast moving, as you all are very much aware. We're watching this bull flag break to the upside, but it kind of hesitated and then got the rejection. So I'll clean up this chart and stuff tomorrow for more intraday scalping, and we'll see what happens. See, what other tickers did y'all have on my list to go through? We already looked at Palantir, so that one is covered. I absolutely have to look at crypto. Thank you for the reminder. Everybody freaked out yesterday over Bitcoin, and then I was chilling over here and they're like, why is he so calm? Because of this crap. So if you have been used to crypto for a long time, right, the little quick dips like that don't bother you, because look, here we are yet again maintaining the very much bullish setup on what's happening over here. Evan said Palantir's still going nuts. We'll have to look at it again here in a second. But yeah, like I said, if the daily, especially the weekly close yesterday, maintained the key levels we wanted to see, we're good. And they did. So I actually need to short term trade me some more leverage futures on Bitcoin, especially if we get a nice little breakout. XRP, if anybody caught this dip yesterday on XRP that hit that 177 level, but especially tagged that 188 strong support level, good for you if you bought at that level yesterday. I didn't alert it or anything like that, but it was a very, very quick tap. And if anyone caught that candle, good stuff, because you're already up significantly from that. Let's see. Literally a 50% move already. So, man, if I was in a leveraged long position on XRP, that would have been sweet right there. I know Chris started messing with some too. So, yeah, Stevie, I'll look at BlackBerry real quick for you. Like, click Solana too. I'm right here. So, look, Solana's maintaining its bullish setup as well. If anything, it's actually backtesting this trend line again. So, Solana's looking good, maintaining bullish momentum. Weekly, it looks fantastic. Where's HBAR? We need to check that real quick. HBAR is another one that's looking great. So, while it lost the pennant, it's maintained the flag. Actually, still a pennant if I mark it from that level. But if I mark it like straight across, because this technically moved lower, it could be a flag, but technically you could do this right here. That's still a bull flag, either way you want to look at it. BlackBerry or Stevie. So yeah, BlackBerry's looking great. Like, I've almost added to BlackBerry earlier, and for whatever reason talked myself out of it. I'm already in the shares and stuff on it, so I need to put it on my swing list just so that I've got it here. But yeah, BlackBerry's looking good. If you look at it on the daily here, it's actually forming a potential cup and handle is what's about to play out here. What I really want to see is a strong bullish push above 460 with some momentum. Because you can see we've got strong buying volume still. So this is a good example of what we've been talking about in a lot of these examples we've been looking at where price action's moving up. I would be concerned if as price action was moving up here, volume was tapering down, showing buyer exhaustion, but we're actually seeing the opposite. So what that tells me is that you actually have buyers stepping in more and more, and that's what you need is that strong momentum of buying to push through that supply zone. So BlackBerry's still looking great. I'm still in my shares and swing calls on that. Golly, Palantir's just like ripping. That's awesome. RGTI, because we traded some calls earlier today on it. Let's see what's up on that. Sorry, I was looking at some Trump alert that popped up on the thing. So RGTI caught a nice bounce off the sports zone today. If I look at the daily, you'll see what I'm talking about. So I entered some very cheap lotto calls on it. Wasn't going to trade some expensive longer term swing calls on it because the risk to reward didn't make sense, but risk to reward made sense for me on the cheaper contracts with that support and momentum show out that we saw. And then check this out. So look here. It broke out to the upside and ran hard. So those calls, the reason why I went short term and why that made sense in this setup was because those actually benefited from this small move to the next resistance level. Giving, let me look real quick because I don't want to like lie or mislead about this. I'll show you full transparency what I'm talking about. So those RGTI calls on that little move intraday like that offered 45% gains. And yeah, they're this week expiration, so it's higher risk, but they're also significantly cheaper than trying to trade something further out. So those offered huge gains already. Very cheap exposure as well. So that's the kind of trade that makes sense in that setup. It's a bit more risky to try to add to really expensive calls that are further out several weeks or months on something that's in that range where it can still reject. But I'll be watching it because I do want to add some swing calls on it, but I wanted to make sure we were in the clear first. NVIS is another one that I've been patiently waiting for to pull back to the levels that we got to today. And I added me some calls and shares today on NVIS when we backtested this trend line, right? So ideally I would want to wait for the confirmation, but I actually saw some really good bullish movement on the options flows for Microvision. Plus it's got high short interest still, so you've got a short squeeze potential to come out of this thing. Which you can see that it's done multiple other times where in a matter of days it's 30 to 40% move. So watching this, I want to see a minimal gap fill to the 152, which would make significant gains on the calls I entered. So I'll see what happens with NVIS here. Where's my list? Grab. Yeah, I can do grab for you. So grab's also holding that key backfill level that we wanted to see, right? So it filled this gap and it's holding that zone. I'm watching cautiously here because while it's wanting to maintain this pennant overall, I'd like to see some strong buying volume step in. So we might get consolidation and still maintaining a bull flag here on the weekly, but you want to watch out because this could technically form a bear flag here. But watching this, I want to see what happens. It does look like the volume on the selling is dissipating. You can see it's kind of trending down as we've gone through the roll. So I'd like to see a breakout here because the measured move on grab has a lot of upside potential. What is next on the list? We did Invis XYZ. So this one, Tony even saw this. He got stopped out, it sounds like, but I've been waiting patiently, and this used to be SQ. It's block for those that aren't aware of it. But check out this weekly. So inverse head and shoulders set up. Nice, perfect little backfill test here on the neckline and bounce, holding key support level. Heading into earnings there as well. So this is actually looking really good. Also, if you look at the daily here, you've got this downtrend that it broke out of, moved to the upside, back tested. So right here is a great little setup for a swing trade. And this is a good example of something like I was talking about last week where you don't have to trade NVDA, Tesla, all those for calls when you can trade stuff like this that has a much better setup with much better risk to reward ratio for the options contracts, right? So looking for a strong breakout to the upside here. You've also got an inverse head and shoulders that's formed there that will look for the neckline break. So I'll do an analysis breakdown for both directions on this, kind of with the text and reference points and levels that y'all can look at. Let me put that on my list real quick so I don't forget. Yay. So what do we say? XYZ. Alright, I got it on my list to do an analysis thing on. HYMC looks like it's actually trying to hold this breakout too on the weekly. So I know a lot of people associate this one negatively because of AMC and all that crap. But there was some weird movement going on the options chains with it. So cheap enough for the very stupid cheap contracts that are less than $10 that I got in on this thing, as well as I bought some shares just to see what happens, see if it holds this range. I know there's a head and shoulders there, so I'll assess whether or not if we break that $2 level again and confirm it on the weekly, if I need to cut it, and I'll let y'all know if I do. But yeah, watching that setup there. Hood, I'm really upset that I didn't buy calls this morning, but then also they were stupid expensive, even with that huge drop. Just the volatility of crypto and everything else has made Hood contracts go all over the place, but could have bought up a tasty dip on Hood there this morning, knowing good and well that crypto was going to bounce well too. You can see it's still ripping in after hours with crypto. What is Bitcoin doing right now that it's still pushing up? Oh, that's what it's doing. I like it. So yeah, Hood looks like it wants to keep on keeping on and push to that measured move, so we'll be watching that. Uber's another one that we talked through last week. It had a nice big move this morning. It tried to make a push and it hesitated and stalled out. So we'll see whether or not tomorrow it can push up to the upside and get above that 68.09 resistance level. But definitely seeing some good movement behind the scenes on Uber. So took that small position on it. I'll see what happens. What other tickers are on the request list here? A bit. So I did a video a bit earlier if you want to look back. Prakash, thank you. I really wanted to cover sound, so that helps too. I haven't covered it yet. So sound, I almost went ahead and added calls on it earlier today, but I couldn't bring myself to do it until I got follow through confirmation. So I want to see sound hold this key support level that we've seen it hold so many times. If it can, we can make another move just like that one we did previously. So definitely watching that. Also, if we can see a break of this downtrend, that would be even better. So something like that, which that's very conservative, but you get the point, right? So if we can break out to the upside of that with strong buying volume, that's great. I want to see more volume step in on it though. Roboblocks. This thing just keeps on ripping. It did potentially print a reversal candle today, which it's ahead of earnings. So personally, if I had Roboblox shares, if I had more than 100, I'd be selling covered calls in this range ahead of earnings to hedge. But yeah, Roblox is one that's Roblox. Yeah, it's got a lot of potential there. So it's playing out the setup too. I'm not in any swing calls on it anymore. But if y'all are, hopefully this thing keeps on ripping for you. What else? Coin, real quick. Trade some lotto calls on it. Probably gonna regret going ahead and locking those for small gains because I imagine it's gonna keep on ripping. It's still hesitating, so that's good. It's good and bad. If you're selling calls, I apologize, but weekly coin's looking good. It's doing a back test of this pennant, so that's cool. MicroStrategy is another one that freaking ripped today and just completely formed that bullish engulfing candle. Fantastic opportunity today to snatch up some MSTY shares for that dividend. I missed that opportunity because I was looking at other stuff, but my brother-in-law snagged him some shares, so that's good. Let's see. So yeah, MicroStrategy, want to see if we can hold this support range and push higher. If it ever does finally hit that 278.72 level, I'll buy more shares on it. But people have been waiting for it to drop to that level forever, saying, you know, MSTR is going to die, and yet here we are, right? So I'll keep watching that and see what happens. Any other tickers we need to cover? We covered MBIZ, Uber, IWM. So it's in the same setup and range it's been in. I know Tony's been watching IWM pretty close lately, so still watching this because potential bear flag breakdown could play out here. If we can break to the upside of this trend with strong buying volume, you could get a push up higher, but yeah, definitely watching it to see what happens. SoFi holding the bullish range yet again. So here's another one that I wish I would have went ahead and added some calls to earlier today, but I was being cautious and careful, so I decided to wait, which may end up being a good idea. We'll see how things shake out in the coming days. Rum has got a sweet little setup going on here with the inverse head and shoulders forming again. So definitely if we get some strong buying volume on Rum, watch for a strong breakout to the upside of that, because it can do it. So definitely keep an eye on that. I'm actually going to put that one on my list to enter some more swing calls on. Any other tickers? Let me grab and all the discords I'm in real quick. Hold on. I want to make sure I don't skip anybody. Somebody talking about they want it to Palantir, they want to run, they want to see a fatter bubble. I heard that stuff last earnings too, and the earnings before that. Yet Palantir keeps on ripping. So don't expect a big bubble pop on Palantir. Really glad I did not sell covered calls against my shares yet, because they would have got called away in this situation. And this is why, when I've got a stock that's maintaining a bullish setup like this, that I'm bullish on, it's got strong movement for the type of company it is and strong outlook on the financials for it, I hold off on selling covered calls for this stuff right here. I'm bullish on NVDA and Tesla, sure, but the premiums are sky high on them, and we all know that they sell premiums like crazy on them, and that's where they make the money, so I started following suit. Let's see, Rocket Lab real quick, and then if there's any others, throw them to me real quick. Ooh, Rocket Lab's holding the range beautifully. Check this out. Yeah, Rocket Lab's looking good. We'll see if it pushes back up tomorrow. Ultimately, on a lot of this stuff, I want to see what happens tomorrow. So I might start adding into heavier swings next couple of days. I wanted to wait and be patient because patience pays always. So on that note, let me see real quick if there's any other requests. It looks like I covered most of them already, so I will go ahead and wrap up. If there are any other tickers or crypto or anything y'all want me to take a look at, shoot me a message and I'll take a look at it for you. If not, all good. Hope everyone has a great week and does great tomorrow. Have a blessed evening.